Making this one decision will make you and place you in a better place than you could have ever anticipated. Choosing discipline over comfort in a world that teaches the exact opposite is key to getting you to where you want to be. And that's what we're going to be talking about on today's Speak and Get What You Want podcast with the great Raegan Moore. How are you, Raegan?
I'm good. Anytime I get the chance to be on your podcast, it's a good day. So,
Well, and Reagan, I love talking about this specific topic with you. People today, more than ever, are seeking out comfort. We're all programmed that way, and especially today. And what it's done is it's really prevented people from really choosing the more disciplined path, which will get them to where they want to be, but you really have to overcome some obstacles. And that's something that, Reagan, you've always chosen discipline over comfort. Why is that?
I don't know if I've always chosen it, but I think sometimes you're given a circumstance or you find yourself in a certain circumstance and you're like, okay, I can either just sit here and waste my life away or I can learn something from this or I can grow from it. Or sometimes it's even just like you're in survival for a certain amount of time. And then I feel like you get sick of living in the survival mode, you know? And so then you decide to choose discipline instead after that. I feel like with every hard opportunity comes so many more opportunities and blessings. And you start to learn that as you go, even if you start with like a little bit of discipline here, little bit of discipline here, you'll see small improvements. You'll see blessings that come from it. It just like it's this addiction, after that where you're just like, okay, I need to continue working hard. I need to continue like showing up for myself because this is amazing, you know?
Yeah, and for years I worked closely with Dave Ramsey and his company, and he used to say the phrase that you just alluded to there: when you become sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? It really pushes you to where you want to be. But as we jump into this topic today, I'm gonna share five specific things that really prevent people from getting taking that harder path, which will actually get them to a much better place. And Reagan, love to get your insight on each of these. But the very first one is one I alluded to initially, and that is this: we've become conditioned to seeking comfort. We're okay and want to be comfortable. And why do you think that's the case, Reagan?
Well, Chad, you've taught me multiple times that, like, I guess could say I borrowed this belief from you, is that everyone is living below their potential, right? And a lot of people, I think, don't believe that they're capable of certain things. I've like recently joined this group of triathletes here in Puerto Rico, and I've started working hard every single day and going to the gym and doing these workouts with them that I didn't even know I was capable of until I started working with them. Like I feel like we just put these limiting beliefs on ourselves and we're like, oh, we can't do that. I don't have the genetics, to do that. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the experience. And it's the people who are the most delusional that find the most success because they're like, I don't care. Like, I can do this. Why not me? And so I just think it's so interesting that we all just have this idea that we can only go so far. And then maybe it's just because like being comfortable is easier until it's not. I feel like most people choose comfort until it gets to a certain point, and then they're like, "All right, I need to do something different." Like until, like you said, until you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and that's when something finally changes.
Right, but if you think about it, Reagan, I mean, food arrives in minutes, entertainment is endless, answers are instantaneous, right? Everything is like shopping is one click away. So everything comes so very quickly, and it's contributed to the comfort, right? We don't even have to go out. Not only do we not have to go make dinner, we don't even have to go pick it up anymore, right? It's delivered to our door. We don't have to go to the movie theater to see a movie. It can be brought there to you. So we've been really become conditioned to actually not only enjoy comfort, but to seek comfort. And switching gears like that, switching the gears from seeking comfort to seeking goals and seeking a destination and seeking achievement, that's a battle.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think a lot of it too could be due to like a lack of confidence, maybe, like you're so used to just, like you said, getting hand fed all of these things, all dinner, like, Netflix, whatever it is, answers, ChatGPT, things coming within minutes, where you stop like putting the work and the time into yourself to like gain the knowledge for yourself, and you just start relying on these other things. I feel like it dims your confidence a little bit, You're like, oh, I don't remember those things anyway. Let me just ask ChatGPT. Versus like, oh, let me figure this out. Let me solve my own problems.
Oh, absolutely. And that alludes to the next one is we expect immediate results, right? We expect, social media showcases overnight success, but hides the years and years and years it took to get there.
Yeah.
And it's just we're almost conditioned for it. We almost think, oh, okay, it's got to be immediate.
I think too, like going back to what you said about social media, is everything is so instant and everything is a highlight reel. But a lot of those people too, you'll see them post like 10 highlight reels, 10 things about why their business is successful, what you need to do to grow your business, how you can be amazing and achieve your dreams and do all these things. And then they'll post a video of them really struggling or being like, man, nobody knew this. I was going through this, and like trying to just keep it real. But it just goes to show like you really truly don't have any idea what's going on behind the scenes. So that's where it gets dangerous too. You get comfortable, like it's almost mind numbing. You just scroll, you just see what other people are doing, and then you get sad because you're like, wow, I could never do what they're doing because I struggle with this depression that I'm working through, and they have no idea what that's like when you don't really know, like what's going on.
Never know. No one ever truly knows what's going on behind people. It's like not only do they display the highlight reel in on social media, but when they're out and about, when we talk, no one wants to be negative. We want to be positive, and we want to approach every situation with optimism. And so we don't want to share the difficulties and challenges we're having, but at the same time, we assume that everybody's getting immediate results except for us.
Yeah.
And I love, you and I both really admire Alex Ramosi, but I love what Alex says when he talks about those who are successful are those who can withstand the pain longer than everybody else. Because it can be very painful, very difficult, but yet you keep moving forward. And by the way, you should embrace, and like you said earlier, embrace the pain, embrace the challenge, and say, okay, I know this is difficult. I mean, you use the example of the triathlon. This isn't something that you would normally do, but you've embraced the pain, you've embraced the getting up early, you've embraced the difficulty, and it's something that you almost begin to crave.
Yeah, and I think too we forget that we have like this ability to choose a life that we want. God is in it and he's in the details and he's going to help you get to where you need to be. But ultimately, too, it's your choice. Like the lifestyle you want to live is up to you. And nobody's going to come get you out of bed. Nobody's going to force you to do that. Nobody's going to force you to scroll on your phone either, though. So it's your choice, what kind of life, the quality of life you want to live and the goals you want to set. And I feel like the important thing, too, is finding something that lights you up and that gets you excited. After I had both my babies, I was trying so hard to find something that got me excited to like go to the gym. I'd see all these influencers online, right? And they were just shredded and they're like postpartum and they're like, this is how I got abs with this one workout, right? So I'm like, all right, I can do this. And I would go to the gym and I'm like, this is so boring. Like, I don't like this at all. Like I don't even know what to do. I would just sit there and do the machines on repeat because I'm like, I don't know what else to do. Like, and then it just wasn't a good time for me. And then other people are trying different workout classes, which I enjoyed, but they just weren't always worth it to me either. So I was really looking for something that would get me excited. And that's when I discovered this swim team, this team of triathletes. And I was like, this is exciting. let's go. So I think it's important to remember too, what lights you up is so different than what lights your brother up, than what lights your neighbor up, than what lights your dad up. You need to really figure it out. What's going to get you excited to get out of bed in the morning, and then just go for it. Because there will be days, even if you're excited about it and you love it, there's going to be hard days where you don't want to go. But when you love something, it's worth it on those hard days, and you just push through the pain.
Absolutely. I love that. And also when you start thinking about those things that you want to do, the paths and goals that you want to accomplish, don't think about the constraints or the things that could stop you from getting there, right? So, Raegan, when you chose to do a triathlon, you were in your mind thinking to yourself, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to go do this. But if you let the constraints, oh, I don't even have a bike. When am I even going to exercise? When you start doing those things, it can really limit what you want to be. And so having the discipline is also being disciplined enough to know that if you get clear on the destination, then the obstacles that might be in your way at the time will disappear. Opportunities will open up.
Yeah, that's exactly. If you can go with your gut and involve God in it as much as you possibly can. At the beginning of this year, I remember I'm my husband's going to dental school full time, and I'm a stay-at-home mom. And so things are very limited in the sense of like living off of student loans and whatever, things like that, right? And the year before this one, it was just a struggle. We were just surviving, like we had two young kids. We were exhausted. Like we never saw each other. He was busy. I was busy. And I just couldn't figure out what lit me up. And I had a breakdown at the beginning of this year, and I said, I will not let this next year be what last year was. I'm so grateful for last year and all the lessons I learned. And it wasn't miserable, but it wasn't everything I wanted it to be. And as soon as I decided that, I prayed about it. I told God what my goals were, and things were popping up that all of a sudden felt like they were in alignment with where I wanted to go. I had to say no to a lot. And there's still things, you got to figure out. You're like, am I going to go with this good option, or am I going to wait for something better? But if you're just going with wherever the energy is pushing you, then you're going the right way. There have been so many times I've fought against it. I'm like, no, I want this. But as soon as you're willing to like let God be involved in your life, then things are just going to work out exactly the way that you're supposed to.
Of that. I love that. And which leads us to the next point here. Number 3, we've lost practice with discomfort, right? Previous generations often had fewer conveniences and more unavoidable physical challenges, right? Today, the inconveniences can be avoided, which means we get few opportunities to build resilience unless we intentionally seek it, right? We got to seek resilience. You got to seek out doing a triathlon. You got to seek out these things, because so much is just gift wrapped and handed to us, including our groceries on the porch.
Yeah, no, it's so true.
So we just are like, oh, we just lost practice with discomfort. But I want to just jump to the next one real quickly, Raegan, because I think this is perhaps the biggest. And that is number 4. We're constantly distracted, right? Never in the history of the world has the average person had access to more distractions than we have right now, and so we have these challenges, or we have these things we want to attack, but we get distracted, which delays our progress all around.
Yeah. No, I feel like I was born in an interesting year. I was born in 1988. So I feel like I kind of lived through.
No, I feel like I was born in an interesting year. I was born in 1998. And so I feel like I've kind of lived through, I remember pre-cell phones. I remember when my mom didn't have a cell phone. I remember when, you had a Palm Pilot, right? So I feel like I lived through that kind of emerging time of figuring out smartphones. And my first phone was a flip phone, and that's what everyone had. It wasn't different. If you had a smartphone, you were super rich. It wasn't. And so I feel like it's interesting. I remember those times with not having those distractions. I remember, what it was like to not be so preoccupied. And that's something that I feel like our generation, just our world today, really struggles with, is just figuring out how to not be distracted with that. And I actually made a rule every time I go right now to open a social media app, I either have to open my Bible instead or I do 20 push-ups. And then I try to like, change the pace. I'm like, okay, we got it. Cause I was just like, hey, don't do it. Delete the app. Don't do this. Stop. And that didn't work for me. Like, I can't tell myself, no, stop. Like, cause then I just become obsessed with the idea and I think about it even more. So I had to find something else, another way to like distract myself and to actually physically move. And I feel like that works for a lot of people for a lot of situations, not just social media. If you're feeling sad, if you're feeling lonely, if you need to get out of a situation, like get up and move and walk away or change your thoughts and what you're doing and get yourself out of that headspace. Like it's hard and sometimes we believe it's not possible, but just try and then see what happens.
Nice. One of the things that, and then those listening to the podcast who've listened to previous episodes know that I talk a lot about this survey that was done with the top 700 CEOs in America and what characteristic they all had in common. And it was, simply put, they had a high level of self-awareness. They knew where they were struggling. They knew what they lacked. They knew what they needed to improve on. And those who are exceptionally successful know their weaknesses and then they quickly address them. And so to your point, Raegan, you knew that, I'm getting easily distracted with social media. I need to address this. And so having the ability to recognize that, yes, I have the tendency to get distracted, then putting the things in place to help you deal with that.
Well, Sharon, I feel like I learned that from you. I mean, what do you do every morning when you wake up? First thing you do.
Well, the first thing.
Well, Chad, I feel like I learned that from you. I mean, what do you do every morning when you wake up? What's the first thing you do?
When you done one.
Exactly. And then what's the second thing you do?
Remember. But
that's discipline right there.
So how long have you done that?
Not starting your day off that way. You have the opportunity to avoid.
That's discipline right there. And then I feel like doing that and starting your day off that way, you have the opportunity to avoid distractions so much more throughout the day. Like if you're willing to do that and you're willing to like start your day off right and not just wake up and scroll, that's when you get in trouble. Is when you wake up, you roll over, you scroll on your phone, and then you're much more likely to do it throughout the whole day.
And then I go to the gym. Those three help ground me to make sure that I'm focused on what matters most. And really, the discipline to do those three things carries into every area of your life, right? And so you think about, okay, how am I going to be more disciplined? Or in other words, what am I going to do? Now, the key in all of this is setting up the process. So for me, the process is prayer, scripture study, gym, right? And that's the system that I use every single day. And that's what helps me start my day, right? And so understanding that, Raegan, I think is a great point because it's easy to get caught up in the distractions of social media and start scrolling because it's comfortable and you're relaxed and it's like, wow, that seems easy. And then all of a sudden you look at the clock and you go, well, I've been doing this for 2 hours. And, it's a challenge. Every generation has challenges. And right now, ours isn't a lack of intelligence or opportunity. It's the comfort that's become so accessible to us that discipline has become optional, right? We don't have to be disciplined to make sure we go buy this at the store. We don't have to be disciplined to make sure we're making dinner. I mean, simple things, right? We don't have to do any of that. And so the people who separate themselves, they're not necessarily the smartest. I began this episode by saying that it's never been easier than right now. But they're the ones who are willing to be uncomfortable, as we talked about earlier with Alex Ramosi, uncomfortable longer than everybody else. That's the key.
I couldn't agree more.
And so, Raegan, it's getting clear on what you want. And I know we keep going back to your...
I couldn't agree more. Those well put.
The goal for you and you break down what we've been talking about, building the process, the system, and making sure you have the discipline in order to go execute on it. Raegan, when I go into businesses, they all have goals, they all have desires, but they don't really know what they're going to do to achieve it. They don't have a real clear understanding of the path to get there. And so for you, going back to the triathlon example, you said to yourself, I'm going to complete a triathlon. And then you're like, okay, that means I need to do this, 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 and this. But I love the fact that you didn't even have a bike initially, but you knew it would all come together for you.
Well, and I think that's it. It's like going back to what you said about being clear on your goals and your vision. I feel like maybe.
Well, and I think that's it, is like going back to what you said about being clear on your goals and your vision. I feel like maybe this is your experience walking into businesses. I'm not sure this is my experience, is a lot of the times goals and your vision are borrowed from other people and you don't even realize it. You're like, oh, this is my goal. This is my vision. This is exactly where I want to be. And I know it. But when you take a second to step back and like ponder and just sit in silence and like write it down and really, really think about it, like, is that really you? Is that really what you want? Or is that just it because Alex Hormozy has it? Is that just because so-and-so has it and because their business did well in that area or whatever? I finally, for the first time this year, took a real step back and was so confused. I was like, what do I want with my life? I have no idea. And I finally reevaluated. I'm like, okay, these are some ideas of what could be good. And I took it to the Lord and I'm like, help me figure this out. Let's figure this out. And triathlon it sounds so silly because it doesn't sound like a big deal, but to me, it's helped me get my spark back. It's helped me become the person that I was and who I'm continuing to be. And it's helped me gain my confidence because I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like myself again. And I decided I was going to do this triathlon. I was like, okay, I'm gung ho, let's go. And then as the months progressed, I realized, like you said, I needed a bike, and a triathlon bike is like $1 to $5 grand, right? And we're in a position where like I said before, we're just living off the student loans right now, so we're allotted a certain amount each month. And that's what we get. And I just didn't feel good in my gut about taking money from my kids and my husband essentially to invest it in a bike. Like that just didn't feel good to me in our current situation. I was like, okay, I'm gonna put that on the back burner. I'll do that in a couple years. And I told God, I was just like, hey, I really still want to do this one day, but I'm willing to sacrifice it for my family, right? My family's more important to me, and spending time with them and doing things with them is more important than my triathlon. Well, then fast forward, I'm talking to a friend, and she goes, so when's your next triathlon? And I was like, oh, I'm actually going to take a break, explain to her why. And she's like, I have an extra bike. And I was like, no, you don't. Are you serious? She's like, yeah, do you want to use it? I was like, I can rent it from you. And she goes, no, just borrow it. Just train with it. She goes, do your work that you need to do with it, do your triathlon, and then once you do your triathlon, we'll go from there. But don't worry about it. Just use my bike. And I was like, no way. Like, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. That's what I mean. When you're on the right path, when you're doing what feels good, things are going to work out. They just will. And you'll be like, what the heck? Like, how did that happen? There's still going to be trials and challenges. And you might need to be willing to sacrifice some things. But if it's what's right, then it's going to work out.
Having the discipline to be uncomfortable. And we concluded with that example that you just gave, because the reality is confidence, and you actually use the word confidence. Confidence comes from doing. Confidence comes from doing, not sitting back. If people sit back and they go, I just wish I had more confidence. Well, confidence comes from doing. It comes from taking action. And I love that you took a step into the darkness, not knowing exactly how it was going to work out. But when you take action, you get confident from taking that action.